welcome to the Rebel Rebel podcast. It's a podcast for creative rebels and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Michael Dargy. It's another COVID physical distance via Zoom episode that you can also watch on YouTube if you want. My guest today is Dave Ware. He's an award-winning Lego artist, an entrepreneur, improviser, English major, and of course, to round things out, he's a database architect. So kick back, relax, and we hope you enjoyed this show as much as we enjoyed making it.
All right, well, welcome to the Rebel Rebel podcast. I am sitting here at a strategic distance across the city from Mr. Dave Ware. Dave, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing today, Dargy?
I'm awesome. I'm living my best life. It's wonderful. So
Dave,
Dave,
your best indoor life, yes.
My best indoor life, yeah. I have one tiny little window in the studio. I can't see anything but the gray sky right now, but it's a window, and I'll take it. Just to bring people up to speed, you've got a couple things on the go. You've got Innovative Play, you've got Monkey Boy Consulting, you've got a website called Brickwares, you do Lego stuff, you do business stuff, you do improv stuff. Can you make that sound way more eloquent than I just said?
That's pretty much it. There's a bunch of different things going on. LinkedIn hates me because I have 5 different jobs kind of thing. But so my educational background was I have a degree in English literature with a concentration in poetry, if you can believe that. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, creative writing. So I decided pretty early on that I wanted to turn that into something that would provide me with an income so that I could do other things. And so I got into technical writing, which is essentially writing manuals and instructions for things.
Not very creative.
Easy. No, not really. It's just sort of finding the simplest, the most clear way to say something, which actually has become like a skill for me these days. Yeah. So I got a job working at a company that makes a GIS, a graphical interface system, a mapping system, basically. And from that, I ended up in oil and gas software and worked for a company that makes a oil and gas software product for a few years, and then realized that I could just continue doing that for myself. And then I started working directly for a couple of oil companies. And when that last one I was working for went under, which was 16 years ago, their name was Calpine. You may remember them from the energy industry stuff that was happening in California. I started Monkey Boy Consulting, which is basically doing exactly the same thing, but doing it for myself. Yeah. Monkey Boy was what I was calling my infant son at the time. It's a line from Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah,
the aliens,
the 8th dimension.
Yeah, the aliens kept calling all of the humans Monkey Boy, so I always thought that was funny. So I started my own company, and I've just basically been consulting at various sites, being sort of an expert on that oil and gas contract and lease system. Huh. And that's Monkey Boy. It's a legal entity.
It's very niche.
Yeah, it is pretty much, but it hasn't been a problem, up until now. It's still not a problem yet, but definitely a vector that has been shrinking a lot lately. I'm still working from my home, doing that kind of stuff. And then, so the other part of the coin is about, I don't know, 10 or 50, probably around the same time, I started really getting into Lego, building stuff with Lego and building sets and that kind of thing. And there's an entire community out there as there is for everything these days, of people who are just crazy about Lego.
Yeah.
They call themselves adult fans of Lego, or AFOLs. And they have conventions, and everybody brings the stuff that they make, and you check out the cool stuff that other people make, and you make your own cool stuff. It's awesome. Really, it is. So I started doing that, and then I realized that I could sort of monetize that by making mosaics, giant pictures out of Lego.
And they're gorgeous.
Thanks.
I'll put links to your site in the show notes so people can check it out, because they're outstanding.
Thanks. So I call that Brickwares, which is my last name, Ware, and Brick because it's Lego, and you can't call it Lego Wares because they sue you.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah, so I started doing that and kind of turned that into a bit of a side hustle, as the kids call it these days. And then in an attempt to sort of join the two things together, I went and took a course to become an official facilitator for something called Lego Serious Play, which is a method that the Lego company invested in to train facilitators in using Lego as sort of the medium that you train people with. And so so that's Innovative Play. I actually also have a website called Innovative Play by Dave Ware, but it was recently hacked, and so there's nothing there.
Really?
It was utterly destroyed during the hack. So yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Quick sort of follow-up question here. The training of the Lego, you're not training people how to build Lego, right? This is to facilitate a business goal.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, it's like corporate training, essentially. A lot of people, team building, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we use the Lego as just a way to get people talking about different things. It's pretty interesting stuff. It's a bit of a hard sell, which I don't really understand why that is, but people seem to like the. You've probably seen online 1,000 times the people with the little colored Post-it notes. They seem to like that better than Lego. I don't get it, but
why?
Yeah.
Give me Lego in a boardroom anytime, and I'm there.
No kidding. Yeah, and I guarantee you, if you throw a couple of handfuls of Lego down on the boardroom table, by the end of the meeting, everybody is going to be building something with it while they're talking. Everybody,
without question. Awesome. So, where do you split your time? Like, I look at some of those mosaics, and they must take a massive amount of time to build.
They used to take a lot longer, for sure, but I've kind of, again, honed my skills over time, and so it's kind of second nature to me now. And so they do go a lot faster. It's the sort of, it's the sort of thing you do while you're sitting watching TV.
What's your favorite one that you've built so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I've got a few. The one I did of the Rocketeer fairly early on was pretty sweet. It was very big. So what happened was I figured out how to make pictures, and then I realized if I wanted to make really clear pictures, I had to go even bigger.
Right, because
so pixels. They got it's basically you don't have a lot of a lot of leeway there. It's like you said, pixels,
fixed resolution.
Yeah. And then so I started getting bigger and bigger, and at some point you go, well, this is getting crazy. You can't get too much bigger, because once you pass about 4 feet by 3 feet, no one has wall space anymore, and the cost becomes kind of astronomical. Lego, as you know, is not cheap. So so then the goal was to try to get them back smaller, but get better at what I call pixelating, or just, playing with the image. So I have a software program. I take an image, I pixelate it in the actual Lego colors. And then there's still a bit more. There's playing with, how things have pixelated, adding a bit of shadow, changing the color of stuff to make stuff stand out. Some pictures are great. Some don't work at all.
Wow. So the Rocketeer, and I know that you've given some of your pieces to famous people.
Yeah. So, not so much given, but had sold or had signed, and so what I started doing was I got a table at Calgary Expo. Years and years ago I started, and what I discovered was that if you make a giant picture of someone's face in Lego, they definitely want to see that.
Right.
So I started using it as a way to just kind of meet people. Yeah. It's like, you can stand in line, but when you're standing in line, you're holding a giant picture of someone with Lego. They're like, hey, you come to the front of the line. I want to talk to you. Right? So I've met quite a few, celebrities doing that. And I've sold a couple pieces to, I guess you'd call them celebrities. One fellow is Michael Jacquino. He's a Academy Award winning composer is what you call him. So he's done all the music for all of J.J. Abrams stuff and a lot of the Pixar stuff up.
Wow.
Some of the Star Wars movies, I think almost everything, like half the movies I see these days, his name's on them now. So
Amazing. And what was the piece that he had?
It was a surf poster that I made. So I like to take sort of old vintage posters and pixelate those. And so he really liked that. He's a big Lego fan as well. So he was coming to some of those conventions and sort of said, "Hey, I want that one." I said, "Okay."
I've also seen you've done some 3D models, like of buildings.
Yeah. So that's sort of a sideline. Once I started up Brickwares, people don't just ask questions about mosaics. Often they say, "Hey, can you make this for me?" And often it's, "Can you do a model of our building?" And usually it's, "Can I have it next week?" And then I say, "No." But I like the people who say, "Yeah, we're 4 months from now, we're going to open this building. Can you build a copy of it for us?" And that's kind of a fun, because that's a different set of skills too. It's taking often meeting with architects and saying, "Hey, all those CAD drawings you have, can you rescale them so that they're the same size as Lego bricks?" And the engineers are always really excited about that. They love that idea. Everyone I've worked with has been like thrilled to do this. So yeah, I've done a few of them. The biggest one is we did N3, which is that new, well, maybe not as new these days, but it's right beside the new library.
Oh, right.
And it was in the news because it was one of the first condo buildings that was sold with no parking. So it has no parking spaces. And basically you get a little lockup area and you get a bike. And because it's right in the East Village, in theory, you're not gonna need a car. So
yeah, as soon as they build that grocery store,
yeah,
you'll be fine.
And so they came to us, to myself, and I've also sort of partnered up on a lot of projects with a fellow who is called a Lego certified professional. And
that's a thing.
It is. So Canada has 2 now. We just got our second one. Neither are me. The first one was a fellow named Robin Sather, and he works out of British Columbia. And so my sort of rebel take on all this stuff was, I'm building all these mosaics. I can't get enough Lego to build them.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get that much. This was, 10, 15 years ago, before you could just buy a bunch online. So how do I get more Lego? Oh, there's this guy in Canada who works not for Lego, but with Lego. I'm going to go and find this guy and talk to him. And so I did. I went to one of the conventions and I was like, "Hey, you're that guy. Can we talk?" And so we started chatting. And so we sort of developed a partnership and a friendship. And so Robin was involved in that project as well. And we basically, it took an entire summer of building, and it just happened that the fellow that we were building for had a show home out in Springbank with a big 3-car garage, and that's where we built in sections this giant 8-foot by 8-foot by 7-foot model.
Wow.
In chunks and bits.
So how do you become a Lego certified professional? And follow-up question, why aren't you one?
They're both good questions. So a Lego certified professional is someone who has a business that involves itself with or around Lego. Yeah. And you would go to the Lego certified professionals. I think there's about a dozen or so now. It may be more than that. And sort of apply to become part of their group. Say, this is what I have to offer. This is what I can do. This is what I have been doing business-wise. I'd like to be a part of your group. And then they would sort of look over your stuff and see if you would be a good fit for it. A lot of it has to do with what areas will you be working in, who will you be doing stuff for. Again, I'm not in the program itself, so I'm not speaking from an insider's point of view or anything. Yeah. But a lot of it has to do with, can you provide some benefit to Lego? Can Lego provide some benefit to you?
Okay.
So most of the fellas that you're seeing making these giant models and doing, museum tours and stuff like that, they're part of that program as well. And Lego will call on them to say, we need to do a big thing in Times Square. Can you come and be part of that and help us build stuff? So Robin has been doing that for Canada. And now there's not a new fella. He's in his 40s, but or late 30s, a fellow named Graham Diamond from Ontario, who is going to sort of assume some of the Eastern Canada duties.
Wow.
And why am I not a part of that program? Well, the flip side of the coin is when you become a Lego certified professional, you can only do the things that Lego thinks are okay.
Oh,
That might sound more ominous than I want it to. For instance, right now I can make a mosaic of anything I want.
right.
Doesn't matter, any subject matter at all. If I became a Lego certified professional, there'd be certain things such as like petroleum. You can't do anything involving the petroleum industry. You can't do stuff involving medicine. You can't do a lot of IP stuff. So I couldn't make, even though I would be a Lego certified professional, I couldn't do a Lego Star Wars Stormtrooper because I'd be stepping on Lego's copyright. So there's a bit of stuff like that.
Yeah, I get
so. And from my side of things, I work with Robin pretty closely, and so I'm able to pass projects that are too big for me on to Robin, and Robin is also able to pass stuff that he's not able to do over to me.
Yeah, right.
And so it kind of works that way. There's also a lot of fees involved, and it just never made sense for me to become a certified. I'm an uncertified professional, I guess.
Do you get like letters after your name? Are they LEGO?
The funny one is always people, whenever I do interviews or stuff like that, people call you a master builder, and you have to like go, guys, no, you can't. No. Oh, the only master builders are the guys who work for Lego, right? Like there's a crew of, again, I don't know how many it is, maybe 10 or 12 people or 14 people.
A cabal.
Yeah, and those guys they are literally called master builders, and I am not one of them. So I do not like to be called that.
Okay, so do you have like calluses from Legoing? Have you ever broken something on yourself Legoing? Like, how risky is this?
I have injured myself on a number of occasions, never from stepping on Lego. Usually it's like you're trying to force something with your thumb and your thumb kind of slips and you kind of cut up the side of your thumb or something like that. Yeah. There is one of the Lego certified professionals. His name is Nathan Sawaya, Sawaya. You guys should look him up. You've probably seen his stuff already. He does a lot of the big giant art. Yeah. And he has the best tattoo in the world, which is on the face of his thumb. He's got 4 little black dots, which is like just from pushing and right. I think it's brilliant. There's no point in getting a Lego tattoo. He's mastered it. So.
Yeah, it's done. That's so cool.
Though I did almost cut off my thumb building a stand for one of my mosaics. I don't think that technically counts as a Lego injury, but
Lego adjacent.
Adjacent, yes. Yeah.
So what sort of brought you to? Okay, this is a stupid question, but I have to ask it because fun obviously brought you to Lego. But what is it about? What got you back into it? Because you got a kid. I assume Monkey Boy was pretty little when you started this thing.
Well, so actually my getting back into Lego preceded the first of the Monkey Boys. Yes. Oh. There's 2 of them now. So right after it was what we call in the Lego world the dark ages, right? You play with Lego when you're a kid, then you go through your dark ages, and then you come back to it at some point, right? So most people are still in their dark ages. I had just moved in with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and we were living over like near Westgate. Okay. Just happened to be walking through a Walmart one night, and I looked over, and I was just passing through the toy aisle to get to something, and I happened to see this Lego set, and it's called the Witch's Airship. It was part of one of the sort of the offshoots of the pirate stuff, the knight stuff, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. It was a very different looking set.
How many pieces?
It was probably 200, 300. It's pretty small for a small set. And I thought, oh, that's kind of fun. Maybe I'll just grab that. And so I did. I bought it just for kicks and took it home and I built it. And then like every time we went back to Walmart, I'd buy another little set and another little set. And then now I have a storage unit. So that's how it goes.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh my God.
I have a lot of Lego.
What is your favorite piece? Like, what's your favorite model that you've ever built?
My favorite that I've designed and built myself,
or just any model that you've built out of Lego, whether it's yours that you've designed or somebody else's. What's sort of the crown jewel of your collection?
I think it changes a lot because you always feel like you get a little better, and so everything you make is a little fancier than the thing you made before it.
Yeah.
Your viewers can't see because we're doing Zoom, but this thing right behind me here, this is a it's like a tiki shop.
Yeah.
So the main level, so it's if any of your listeners are familiar with the Lego modular sets, those are the big $300 sets that they sell every year.
Yeah.
And so the main floor is like a big tiki bar, and then the second floor there's two little apartments on either side, and in the middle there's a big old volcano.
Oh my God.
So I'm also kind of a fan of like the tiki and surf kind of stuff, and so I've been trying to build a lot of that. So probably my favorite thing that I've built lately is that, I would say.
And is that out of a kit or is that out of your head?
No, everything I make these days is all out of my head. I mean, I build sets. Don't get me wrong. There are some great sets out there. What I generally do now is I build a set, and while I'm building the set, I'm like, oh, that's a neat technique. Oh, that's interesting how they've put these 5 pieces together.
Yeah.
I have to remember that's an interesting way to get this thing accomplished. So it's like, the car guys go and look, oh, that's interesting how they put this piece close to that piece. That's what we do, is we just kind of look through, or what new pieces are there in each of those new sets. Oh, this piece is now available in blue. Awesome. I have to get some of those.
What is your what's the one piece of Lego that you wish they had? What's missing?
It's this is probably less interesting answer than you want, but it would be like a plate with studs on both sides of the plate.
Oh, it's sort of like a joiner plate?
Yeah, that would allow you to flip something 90 degrees very easily. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that would be the thing that I would like to see.
I can't believe they don't have that.
Well, maybe one day.
Like, I think back to in the 70s when I was building Lego, and then later in the 90s when I was building it with my kids. I always wanted I like the ones with joints.
Oh yeah.
So you could it had some kinetic movement to it and stuff like that. Kind of fun.
There's amazing stuff that people are doing with the Technic, which is the sort of the gears and that kind of stuff, and just the movement stuff that people are able to do. That's the other cool thing that I love about Lego is you could be the best spaceship builder in the world.
Yeah.
And you'll go to a convention and you'll be like, that is a cool pirate ship. I could never build. Like, you can't master everything. So everybody else is doing stuff that's just as cool as, or if not cooler than what you're doing. That's what I love about it. Yeah.
That's so cool. What's next for Dave in this space?
Well, that's a good question. So we're just trying to figure out here how the whole, oil and gas industry is getting a little tighter all the time, whether there's still going to be stuff for me to do there, or whether those kind of jobs are going to start drying up. So my comment has always been like, I'm an oil and gas guy until I make more money doing Lego, and then I become a Lego guy. So it's not always that I'm going to make more than my current salary. It could just be that there is no more money from the one side. So I could just become a Lego guy. I also kind of like the idea of moving over into doing more facilitation, because that kind of harkens back to what I started with, which was showing people how to do things, explaining people how things work. Okay. The one thing that I've been able to do quite well with my job is I work within a business unit. So it's people who don't necessarily have strong computer skills. I mean, they're not dummies or anything, but they don't know how databases work, and they don't know how relational queries work. But I took the time to figure that stuff out. So while I'm not as strong as them, maybe on the land knowledge side of things, I can explain to them what the technical people want from them. Right. And I can explain to the technical people how the land side stuff works. So
you're like a translator.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how I look at it. And my favorite thing about my work is problem solving, which is not a shock if you're a Lego guy. But I like trying to figure out how to, when someone says, oh, can we do a report that does this, this, and this? I'm like, I hope so. Let's figure it out. Like that's to me, that's the most exciting part of the job, is figuring out how to do something. So yeah, that's what I've been able to do. But yeah, I like that idea of moving into a facilitation role and showing people how to do stuff, or opening their eyes to the ways to do things. One thing we haven't even discussed to this point is the fact that I started improvising at Loose Moose when I was 16 years old.
Man.
And so all of this stuff that I've just talked about has been colored, flavored, based on all of the principles of improvisation and, not blocking and sort of trying new things and making mistakes and trying to figure out how things work. So
that's awesome. And just to drill down on that for a second, how important is it to just embrace the mistakes?
Well, it obviously different things have different answers to that. I don't want my surgeon going, "Hey, let's just see what works here." But hopefully that surgeon has made those mistakes already
on a cadaver, perhaps.
Yeah, it's been said thousands of times, but the only way you move forward is by learning, is by making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and then moving on. Mistakes and failure are great for so many different reasons. Half of the cool stuff that I built out of Lego is because I slapped two things together and went, "Wait a sec, that's okay, yeah, that kind of works. Let's see if we can do that." Or often we'll build something and go, "Oh, wait a minute, it doesn't actually line up or join with this other piece that I wanted to. So how can we cover that? How can we make that happen?" Right? So a mistake isn't necessarily, the end of things. A mistake isn't everything's got to be thrown away. A mistake is like, okay, this is a new wrinkle. How do we deal with this? Right? So it's part of learning how to be flexible, which again, for any business is an important thing. How to be able to bend with the times, how to be able to work within a new challenge and a new environment. So
yeah,
I think the making mistakes is the biggest part of improv, that people to learn that failure is not the end of the world. That failure is a door opening to somewhere else.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are the 5 things that you wish people would know?
About what?
All the things.
Okay. One of them would be that apostrophes are important and they should be used correctly. That one drives me crazy all the time.
I'm so bad at apostrophes sometimes. Only certain kinds of apostrophes, but yeah, I understand. I get it. I feel the same way about commas.
Yeah.
The lower apostrophe.
Yeah. I have a little sign that sits on my desk that my wife got me. It says, "I'm silently correcting your grammar." And I do always, but usually silently, which is good. Okay, that's one. Number 2 thing that people should know. Yeah, failure is something you shouldn't be afraid of. Failure is something that you should embrace, right? You fall down, you get back up again. Very easy. Number 3, things that people should know. Mega Bloks are not the same as Lego. There are other brands, and I don't say it because I don't work for Lego, but Lego makes a superior product. That's why they have hung around as long as they have. That's an important one. That's number 4. Number 4, thing that people should know. Learning is always a good thing. Don't be afraid to learn new stuff. You can solve a problem or you can learn from a problem. And a lot of people are satisfied just to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And really, if you learn from a problem, you're going to have less problems down the road.
Nice.
Well, that sounded pretty good, didn't it?
That was really good.
That. Yeah.
Could be the title.
And the 5th thing is... this is something that I kind of read earlier today, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to steal it.
Nice.
which is that life is going to happen and you can't control it. So stop trying to control it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, roll with it, learn from it, figure out how to deal with it. But you're not going to be able to control everything in your life. You should stop trying to control the things that you can't control.
Yeah.
Worry about the things that you can and learn from the difference between the two. Oh, that was good.
That was super good.
That was good.
That was deep. Deep cuts with Dave Ware. That was awesome. Well, so you've come a long way. We touched a little bit about improv, and I don't know whether that was the pivotal moment for you, but what do you think it is that sort of brought you to you got 3, 4, 5, sometimes companies that are rolling and doing stuff. What is it that sort of brought you to that spot? What made you decide to not hang out with the status quo?
Definitely part of the improv. I mean, joining Loose Moose at 16, which is like a ripe age when you're figuring out who you are and being influenced by all these really super funny and people who aren't afraid to try new things. I think that definitely had a lot to do with it. I got this thing in my head where I want to try things. I want to do big things. Yeah. And when I say big things, it might be a project that's really big. It might be an idea that's really big. It's not world-changing stuff, but it's stuff that I want to do. And I've often found over the years, the thing that usually lets me down is, as horrible it is to say, is having other people involved. My limitation is often people, because I want to do this thing and then people drop out. People don't want to do it anymore. And you're like, Yeah. And so I try to sort of arrange things so that even if people drop out, I don't have to stop doing the thing I want to do.
Nice.
Be like if you, what would be a good example? Like if you have a podcast and there's two people.
Yeah.
And one of them stops wanting to do it, you need to build that podcast in such a way that you can keep doing it if it's the thing that you want to keep doing.
Yeah. And
so a lot of my endeavors are sort of built around I'm the guy. There's downsides to that too, because you're always responsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's the way I've kind of built things, is that, I'm the only one who can stop this from happening.
Yeah.
If I want to do a project, I'm going to do a project. If I want to take a commission, I'll take a commission. But yeah, it's mostly stuff that I can control. That's my control freak side, I guess, is being in charge of whether something can happen or not.
Nice. What's the so there's all these people out there in the world at various stages of development and either business or personal. What advice would you give them? I call these people the rebels in waiting, to help sort of get them on their way, or to, something you could whisper in their ear that might be help them sort of take that next step.
That's a good question. I hear this whole thing like, chase your dreams and only do what you love kind of thing. Yeah. And I guess I would warn them to not get too far into that.
Okay.
It's great to follow your dreams, but do it in a way that you're going to be able to put a roof over your head while you're doing it.
Right.
I'm not a fan of this sort of abandon everything and just do the thing you want to. I mean, I guess it works for some people. It's too scary for me.
Yeah.
So I would say to them that if there is something that you really want, start figuring it out. Start figuring out how you can get there, right? Start making your plan. Are you going to be able to support yourself doing that thing? Or if it takes a while to support yourself doing that thing, what other thing are you going to do to get there? My kid is just starting out. The original Monkey Boy is now 16, and he's just starting out, and he's really interested in theater and acting right now. And I think that's great. And I always tell him that's a fantastic thing to do. But you should learn another skill while you're at it. Like learn how to be a carpenter.
Right.
People always need carpenters. Yeah. It's not saying that you have to do that for a living, but if you need to, you've got that thing to fall back on, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily give up on your dreams, but it's like, have a plan B. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt.
And then you can end up with like maybe 3 or 4 companies down the road.
Sure. I mean, legally I have one company, but all of the other companies work through that one company. I have the most interesting expenses of most companies because it's all consulting work. It might be Lego consulting, it might be acting consulting, or it might be oil and gas consulting, but it's all consulting, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. What's your favorite poem?
My favorite poem?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question. I wasn't expecting that. Definitely one of my favorite poems that I always really loved is, it's actually a bit of a religious poem. I'm not a religious guy, but the poem is great. And it's by a guy named Gerard Manley Hopkins. It's called The Windhover. And I don't know when it was written, but quite a long time ago. And it's just got such great language, and the way that the word, I won't give you the whole thing, but a bit of it. It's about a guy who sees a bird, and it reminds him of, God, basically. Simple, right?
Yeah.
So I caught this morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's dauphin, dappled dawn drawn falcon in his riding of the rolling level, underneath him the steady air, and striding high there, how he rung on the rein of a wimpling wind in his ecstasy, and then off, forth on a swing. As a skate's heel sweeps smooth on a bow bend, the hurl and gliding rebuffed the big wind. My heart in hiding, stirred for a bird, the achieve of, the mastery of the thing.
Damn.
That's like 60% of it, but yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Isn't that great? It's just like such
you
good
can taste
language.
it.
Yeah.
You can see it and feel it. It's really good.
So the thing, if you're interested at all, so the interesting thing about poetry is people always say that like writing a novel is not easy, but it's easier than writing a short story.
Yeah.
Because in a short story, everything has to mean something. You have to get rid of all the extra stuff because it's shorter, right? It's condensed. Well, a poem is that times 1,000. Every word has to count for something. And they have this thing in every kind of writing or movies or whatever called, killing your darlings, right? You have these things in your script that you love, but they don't move the script forward. They don't help your story out. Yeah. You have to get rid of them. And that's poetry, is you have to get rid of everything that doesn't do something. And that particular poem, I think, is one of the tightest poems. Every word is and it's also it uses language really well. Yeah. And it, like, when you're reading it, you can't help but get into that rhythm. So that one's always struck me.
That's wicked.
If I ever have a big famous, or not big, not big famous, but big fancy, English mansion or something, I'm going to call it, Windhover Manor or something like that.
That's fantastic. Who's your favorite fictional character of all time?
My favorite fictional character of all time. Ooh, that's hard.
Yeah.
Thinking. I'm a big fan of The Godfather, but I don't know if any of the characters would be my favorite character. I guess maybe Vito Corleone. He's pretty cool. Just sits around and thinks a lot,
Plans things out.
Emmett from the Lego Movie.
Who's your favorite non-fictional? Who's your favorite real person that's ever lived, living or non-living?
Oh, my favorite person that's ever lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the LinkedIn question again, because I got like 7, but in different, fields and that kind of thing. One of them was brought up the other day. He's an interesting guy. Is Robert Feynman, who's a Nobel Prize winning scientist who worked on the atom bomb project. Yeah, but he was also like a kind of cool guy. Learned how to play bongo drums in his 60s and learned Portuguese and all this kind. He had a really interesting view on life, just trying stuff. His wife got really sick and the doctors couldn't figure out what's wrong with her. And so he went in and started reading a bunch of medical journals and he figured it out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It didn't end well, but he figured out what was wrong with her. So, he's a pretty interesting guy. I think my dad moves into that category more every year.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if your younger rebels know this yet, but the older you get, I think the more you figure out your dad, assuming you had a good relationship with your dad, you start figuring out why your dad is your dad, the way he is, and you start catching yourself saying things that your dad said, and you're like, that's why he said that. Or you find yourself on the other side of a conversation that you had with your dad when you were 19.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, must have been what it was like for, so I definitely learned to appreciate and understand my dad the older I get, which I think everyone does. But again, some people don't have good relationships. So obviously those. Yeah, and other than that, it's probably just, there's lots of different like shows and actors that I think are interesting in the moment or that I like the stuff they do. I don't know if I would put them on a pedestal and say they're my absolute favorites or anything like that, but
fair enough.
Yeah.
What now, obviously, with an English lit degree, you are a reader. What's your go-to book? Something that you've probably read more than once, or that you come back to.
These days, I'm more of a listener. I do a lot more audiobooks now.
Yeah,
because I don't have as much time to sit and read, but I take my dog on a lot of walks and stuff, so I can listen.
Yeah,
which I think is fun too. Probably, I like Dune a lot.
Oh, okay.
The novel Dune, I think, is great. I've probably read that 3 or 4 or 5 times.
What did you think of the 80s movies?
It didn't go great. Looking forward to the new one coming out. That probably take another crack. It's such a complicated story that it's hard to film well, I think. Yeah. Snow Crash is another one that I read quite often.
Neil Stephenson.
Yeah. I've read a few of his others, but I think Snow Crash is really interesting.
I really like Cryptonomicon. That was one of my favorites of his. Huh.
Yeah. Those two are big. I read a lot of sci-fi and what have you, and not as much poetry anymore, but I always did enjoy the poetry. Probably those two would be my big sci-fi go-tos.
All right. Last question. I saved the wickedest question for last. And it doesn't have to be your favorite of all time, but your go-to band.
Oh, that one's probably easier. Elvis Costello is my guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy. Okay.
Yeah. I've seen him live 3 times. I got into him probably when I was in my teens. He's one of the most literary sort of lyric writers. I love music, but I'm a lyrics guy because I'm an English guy. So I would definitely be Elvis Costello. I'm a big Beach Boys fan.
Oh, wow. The Marilyn Manson, the Charles Manson years.
Prince, I think, is amazing.
Yeah.
I always loved Prince a lot. Those guys would be up on my list.
Such a good musician.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Right on. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your story with us. That's it's awesome. It's inspiring. I want to go buy a Lego kit today.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I had a blast. Yeah, everybody should go and just buy some Lego and build it and play with it and have fun.
Yeah, do it.
You can find out more about my guest Dave Ware on his website, brickwares.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Rebel podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Get all the links in the video to the show and other things at therebelpodcast.com. I'm your host, Michael Dargy. Thanks so much for listening.